everyone, this is Daniel, and this is the continuation of how I migrated my Access web app to PowerApps. So in the previous video, we went ahead and migrated just the content over to, from the Access web app over to SharePoint. And in this one, we're going to focus on starting to build a Power App and specifically focus on the view of Power Apps. So just a reminder that in this migration, there is no automated tool that Microsoft has provided for the migration. It is that you have to build a Power App from scratch. And that's basically what I'm demonstrating over here, that it's definitely possible, but you have to put some work into it. So what I've already done is build the first section of it, which is just the view screen. And then I'll go through the 5 different step process that I've already described in the article, and we'll go ahead and build that over here. So what I'm going to demonstrate to you is that in step number 1 is how I build this vertical navigation over here. Then in step number 2 will basically be all the galleries that I have, and these galleries will basically show up over here. And then in step number 3 is based on which gallery you select, you will be able to see your list form. And then if you select on the data sheet, then that list form will get transferred into or converted into the data sheet form, which is very similar to what we have over here in the Access app. Then in step number 4, we are going to start adding these buttons and icons. And then finally in the 5th step, it's using global variables, because based on what you select, I should only be able to see that gallery and that list form or data sheet form. So we'll go ahead and start building that. And what I've done is in this Power App itself, I'll just do a lot of copying and pasting, but I'll only paste specific chunks of it so we can just focus on that. So what I'll do is let me go ahead and create another screen, and I'll just do that as a blank screen. And first and foremost is we want to go ahead and build that navigation. So this over here is the navigation, and as you will see that it's actually a combination of 2 things. I have the text, and in the text I have that star over there, and I wanted to bring that star because it looks very similar to the one that we have in Access app over here, Access web app. So I went ahead and just got that. So that's why it's a group. And we go ahead down here and look at it. You will see that there is these are the groups over here. So there's the order group, there is the customers group, and then there's also the and the product group over here. So let me go ahead and at least capture or get one of these, and then we'll move that over. So let me select that, Control C, and then copy that over to the other screen. And if I say Control V, there it is. So there's the screen that I've added. It went ahead and picked up the group, and I've just created it as a group because I had the button over here, and then I got the icon, so I just put them as one group. So we'll just move that over here. Let's go and grab the other ones as well. I'll hold my control button. And now that I've grabbed all 3 of them, I'm going to hit Control C. We go to the other screen, then Control V, and there you go. I got them all over here. So that looks good. So let me just keep it that way. Oh, I need to kind of move them a little bit around. Yep, there you go. All right, so let's take a look at these this vertical navigation that I built over here. Like I mentioned, it's actually a combination of the actual star, which is basically just an icon that I got, and then if you go to insert, there's an icon, and that's where I got the star over there. So there's nothing fancy about that. And then this over here is actually a button, and then I went ahead and named the button over there, and actually put the default name over there. So that's what I did for all of them, and I just went ahead and grouped it. So there's the employees one, there's the product one, same thing for the customers and the groups. So let me also go ahead and just do a quick, not a test, but move them down a little bit. All right, that should be good enough. So that basically just completes the step one over there, which is how I went ahead and build the navigation. So now let's start adding in the galleries. So the first gallery I'm going to do is add for the employees. But before I do that, I need to make sure that I've already added the data sources. So that's what I did in the data source. I went ahead and added all 5 of them. So if you recall, in that once we did the migration, in that sub-site that it created, photography 1, if you remember that, and I go to site contents, I actually have 5 lists over there. So that was the customers, employees, order details, orders, and products. That's what I went ahead and basically made the connections to. So that's where these are basically my data sources. So now what I'm going to do is, for the first one, for the employees, I'll go ahead and create a gallery, and that employee gallery is basically going to be this section over here. So if you go and click on that, just to view the form, I'll show you what that employee gallery looks like. So when I select on the employees, you will see that the gallery over here will change, and that's basically what we want to do, because that's very similar to the gallery type of view we have on the Access app. Is in the employees, it just shows me the employee name, the full name over there, and then it also shows me the company name. And so that's what I'm trying to replicate over here in PowerApps. So let me go and close that. And in fact, to make it easier, I'll just copy and paste that gallery from what I have over here on the screen that I've already built, and then we'll take a look at that gallery. Actually, in fact, I'll just go and recreate that one from scratch. So I go to Insert, I go to Gallery, and in this case, I just selected the vertical one. You could use the blank vertical as well. I just selected the vertical one. And here's where the gallery came in. Give it a name that makes sense. I just went ahead and gave it the actual name. If you can see over here, the gallery name, I just gave that as an employee gallery. Since I already used that, I can't use it again. But what I'll do is I'll still try to make sense with the name. So I'll change that to employee gallery 1. So what I already have now is a lot of things. So I won't need the image over here, so I'll go ahead and get rid of the image. And once I do, you're going to start seeing as if there's some warnings and errors. That just means that the title needs to be basically rearranged. So I'll just move that around. And this over here will be the subtitle. And this can basically remain as it is. So let me just now make that a little short and just rearrange that. And you can move this around as much as you want. I'm just gonna to make it a little bit more cleaner for the user interface to work. All right, so now that I've got that, this is going to be my employee gallery. So I'm just gonna start typing in employees, because that was the name of the actual SharePoint list that I got. And now that that has changed over here, I need to start mapping it over here. So the title will actually be the name, and it's going to be the full name. So what I need to do is, in the title itself, this section over here, I need to go to the text, and we need to do some concatenation. So in the concat, do that. I'll type in this item, and it's going to be the first name, comma, this item, last name, and that should take care of that. So it did. I went ahead and got the name. Let me just do some cleaning up and extending that. So that took care of the title, and the subtitle was basically just the job or the company name. If I start typing in company, that's what I should get over here. So that's basically what I was able to replicate that really well with what we saw over here, is that I got the company, I got the full employee name, which is the last name and the first name, or the first name and the last name, and then I got the company. So I went ahead and replicated that, basically using the default gallery over here. I even kept the title and the subtitle. I just removed the image. So that's basically the second thing of doing was to go ahead and start building the gallery. And now, so we've already created one. You got 3 others more to create. But before we do that, let's go ahead and now create the form. And the form is going to be of 2 types. I'm just going to focus on the view form over here, then also the data form. So first thing I'll do is, or instead of view, it was actually the display. So the display in this case, again, was for the employees. It's going to start populating some information over here, and we'll do some cleaning up on that. And then after that, I also want to remove the snap to columns because I just move things around. And that's completely at your discretion. You can do that however you see fit when you're migrating it to the PowerApps, or you can go and look at the Access web app and try to replicate that over there. That's completely at your discretion. This is just a demo that I'm doing, so I'm not going to focus too much on its look and feel, but that's completely up to you. All right, so this is I went ahead and removed the snap to columns. Also, I'm going to start removing some of the fields that I do not need. So I'll do that. Let's see, keep all of these department, date of hire, and all of that. And then the ones in the bottom are always those that are tied to the list or the actual data connection, which we don't need in this case. So I'm just going to go ahead and uncheck those. Okay, so I've got that. And in the form, the default item will always be similar to what we have over here. So it is going to be the gallery and the selected item. So that's basically what it is I need to get the gallery name, employee gallery 1 selected. So in the form over here, in the items, it is the employee gallery 1 selected. And you can just type in selected and that populates information, or you can go and say selected item. Either one of it works. But that's what's happened now, because now depending on what I've selected the first one, that data shows up over here. So let me go and just view that real fast. I've gone ahead and just put the Daniel Christian, and that's the primary one because it's on the top, so that shows up over here. If I want to see Tony Stark, then his information shows up over there. Scarlett Johansson, her information shows up over here. So that's basically how that relationship is working. And that's pretty straightforward. That you will see that if you have a SharePoint list and you go ahead and create that Power App form, these are the default configurations that show up over here. Okay, let's go and move this guy a little bit more in. And this tweaking is something that you can do at your own discretion. But basically now we've also completed the step number 3, which is go ahead and get the table and basically get the view form. Let me rename that to employee form. What was it? The view form 1. So we did that. Now what I need to do is also add the data table. And the data table is so that we can actually have this data sheet view over here. So that's what I'm going to do next. So let me go back to the app, and I'm going to insert the data table. And at first it's going to look a little messy because it's all overlapped, but the variables will take care of that. So I've added that. And over here, again, the same thing. In the data table, it doesn't automatically populate it. You got to go ahead and pick and choose what you want. So I'll just pick a few of them because that's what I want to show you is basically what I've done. And then you can go ahead and when your turn comes, add and remove as much as you want. What I'll also do is add a few more columns so you can see that horizontal scrolling that goes on over there. Okay. So all that information shows up, and let's name this guy as employee data table 1. employee data table 1. That way it'll be a little consistent for me. Okay. Now in the article I had talked about the step number 3, step number 5, which is getting the global variables. I put that as step number 5, and we'll get to that in a minute as well. What we'll do right now is we'll keep it as convoluted and mixed up as it is right now. Let's also go ahead and add the buttons and the icons, and then after that we'll just apply the global variable, and then we'll go ahead and even do the next one, which is for the product, because I want to do at least 2. That way you can see how the global variables tie in, such that if you've just selected one, that's all you should see over here, and the global variables will take care of that using the set function. So let's go ahead and just add the icons as well. And this is where I had shown in the article that be consistent in the locations of everything. So if you look at my in the blog that I wrote, I actually had a little bit more cleaner design. I went down and put this top horizontal line over there. That's just a horizontal, almost like a square. And I put photography over there, and then below that I went ahead and added 2 more buttons. I made sure that that location of those buttons and the locations of the icons were very consistent. So therefore, for each of those buttons, you want to keep the X and the Y coordinates handy, because what happens is for every employee, for every table item over here or navigation item, you're going to have one set of them. So for example, in employee section, I'm going to have the list and the datasheet button. Then I'm going to have some icons over here. There's 4 icons. That will be one set only for the employees. Then when it comes to the products, I'm going to have another set. So all in all, you're going to have quite a few buttons, and you're going to have quite a few icons over here, because there's going to be one for each. Therefore, make sure that you have the X and the Y coordinates, and they overlap so you don't even look like it's messy. But when you're switching them around, it still looks like as if you're just clicking on, you just have these one buttons, and it just makes the UI very nice and clean. All right, so let's go ahead and add the 2 buttons that I need, and that's not a button, it's a label. Delete that. So that's the first button I'll add over here, and that button, I'm just a big proponent of taking that radius off. It looks nice and clean. And then I'm going to name this button as the employee list button 1. And I'll type that in as just list over here. Make that a little bit smaller. And then I'll just copy and paste that. Control C, Control V, get that over here, and this one is going to be the data sheet. I'll just change that name over here. Alright, so we got that. Now there's some icons I need over here. Let's go and take a quick look at what those icons are. So I need a plus to add one. I need something to delete, which is the trash can, the pencil to edit, and then also to save. So let's see. Actually, to make it easier, I'll go ahead and just copy and paste those guys over here. And I'll show you what I had to do to get that. So I just selected that. Okay, Control C, screen, Control V, it's copying, and it's best at this time because they're all selected, which means the spacing between them is all the same. So while they're right now selected, I'm going to just go and move it to a fairly good place. Okay, I'll leave that as it is. All right, so let's take a look at these icons that I have. What I did for the icons to try and replicate the look and feel over here is each icon is actually a combination of 2 icons. One was actually the icon itself, which is going ahead and adding. This case, I just did the plus, which is the add. And then around that, I went ahead and put in the circle. And then in the circle, I went ahead and took the filler out. which is the circle over here. Whatever was the inside filling, I went ahead and took the color out over there. And that's what I did. So that's why if you see, if I select on that, this is, I grouped it. That's a circle, and then that's the plus for the add icon. Same thing over here, the circle, and then the delete icon for the trash, the pencil, and then the save. So now we have a combination of all of these over here. And so that takes care of step number 2 as well. Well, step number 4 as well is we've gone ahead and added the buttons and the icons. So let's go ahead and now work with building the global variables. So if you notice that in this screen, I actually already have my variables, but I'll go ahead and start creating them again. In the screen, what I did was, right, in this case, I don't have it. That's good because we can build it again. I've created variables for each and every one of them, and I've explained that actually in the article. You can see right at the bottom is that in the articles, we're actually going to go ahead and use 8 different global variables. And so I'll copy and paste that over here. Copy that. Each of the global variable is assigned to a specific table over here. So for the employees, I want to make it such that it will have a variable for the list, and it will have a variable for the data sheet. I'm doing that so that when there is the, by default, if you select on that, by default, it should show the list over here. And then I should go ahead and see that if I select that, then the data sheet variable becomes active, and that makes this change over here. The reason I went ahead and built 8 is because there's 4 of them over here, and each of them have their own list and data sheet. So I went ahead and created that. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and make it such that when I click on this list, everything else, all we should see is the actual items over there, and then data sheet should be in the data sheet view over here. So just to confirm, when I selected that, I have all these variables. But when I select list, all I need to see is, I'll still make sure that it has the same on select, but it's the visible that I need to change. So on the visible, right now by default, I have gallery, employee gallery variable 1, but I'm also going to do or employee gallery variable data sheet variable 1. And the same thing goes over here as well. Copy that. On the data sheet, I select that. Make the visible. Because what happens is, regardless of what the variable value is, I want to make sure that I can at least see both the buttons, because both the buttons are going to come back and see, how it is over here. And so I can actually put that over here on the icons as well. I'll just leave it to this one. So just let's take a quick look. When I select on the list, what it does is it goes ahead and will set the value on select. The list only should, I should only be able to see the gallery view, and then the data sheet view set to false. On the data sheet button, on select, the gallery view disappears, but the data sheet view should appear. So let's go ahead and do, take a look over here. When I do the list, well, when I click on employees by default, I should only be able to see the list format. So when I select on that, it's the same as selecting over here, but when I select on data sheet, my list is still there. So let's actually remove that list off. We forgot to make that one little change. Employee form, when I select that, visible is true, that's why. We gotta change that and do the employee. See, now when I did that, the backend changed. I mean, that disappeared over here. One more thing I can do is I can actually extend this guy a little bit. Makes it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so now let's do another test. When I selected the data sheet, I got to see the data sheet view. Data sheet view, if I select list, everything else showed up, but so did this guy. Let's take a look at that and fix that again. In the employee data sheet table 1, it should be it's visible, it's true. So let me change that. Employee data sheet variable 1. Okay. Now let's go and test one more time. Okay, select employee. This happens. Select list. There should not be any change. When I select data sheet, everything else to disappear. All I should see is the data sheet view. But if I select either list or employees, the data sheet disappears and I get back over here. So that means that the variables are working well. Let's not stop over here because I want to do the exact same for product as well. Because if you can see how I did 1 and 2, employees and products, you'll see that the other ones are all the exact same. So let's go and take a look at the employees, the product as well. Now the same thing for the products is, like I mentioned, I need to have those buttons and icons as well. So we'll go ahead and create that. Let's copy all of these guys over. Copy them all over. I'm going to do a Control-C and a Control-V. So they're all going to show up over here, and I want to make sure that they overlap. All right, so they all showed up. Let me just overlap them so it almost looks as if there's just, one of each kind. Yep, they overlapped really well. But what I'll do is I'll change these names a little bit. Because that's going to make things a little confusing, because then you won't know which one's what. So what I do is I keep that as it is, but I want to remove employee and make that as product. And when you're building this, go ahead and make change these names as well. For the sake of this example, since I'm demoing it, I will just change the actual group name. But when your guys are doing this, to go live with it, I would recommend that you change the icon as well as the button name over there, because that just makes it a little bit more consistent. And then the key thing is when you're doing a search over here and you come up with something, with your name, as in like an employee edit circle 2, when you see 2, it might make things a little bit more confusing. Expand this just to be sure. Almost done. Okay. So we've gone ahead and done that. Now let's go ahead and also get when you select the product. So let's actually do that first. Let's go and select the product. So on selecting the product, the product gallery 1 and the product gallery 2. Okay, so that'll happen. So let's see if I just click on it. Everything else should go blank, and that might just make it a little easier. Yep, that makes it a lot easier. So now that I've ended took that blank, let's start getting all these other guys in here. It just makes it a little bit more easier, so that you can hide the other ones off and start bringing these ones in over here. Okay, so the product group, it is going to be visible. By default, it has the employee gallery one. Let's change that to product. Okay, got it. Save. Got the delete. Edit. And let's give those two buttons also. If you remember, for the buttons, we want to add the OR function as well. See, you'll see that this was the employee gallery or the employee data sheet. We're going to do the product gallery or the product data sheet. Okay, same thing. I'll just copy this guy over. Control C. Buttons. Visible. All right, so now that the buttons and everything are there, let's just drop the form, the view form, and drop the data sheet table. Okay, so we need to add the gallery also. So let's add the gallery now for the products. And since you guys have seen the other one, I'll go and just copy it from the previous screen. So I'll get the gallery for the product gallery. Copy that. You've seen how I did that for the employees. I'll drop this in now for the products. Now when I dropped him over here, he was by default blank, because it still remembers the previous variables. If I just make this over here as 1, it will show up. Then I'll also go and get the product table and the product form. So let me get that one first. Control C. Paste it here, but it's probably going to be blank as well. So we need to change its variable. And again, you guys will not see this problem. I mean, a problem, but you won't see that's visible and non-visible. Because you want to have to, you want to have multiple variables. But this again is just a good example for you to see how this works. Okay, let's expand that a little bit, and then for products form viewer visible, let me change that to 1. That shows up nicely. And if I go and grab the table as well, should be products data table. Control C. Drop it here. Yeah, it should be good. Make this guy is visible. And then I need to also go and make a change on the onSelect. Because right now, probably both are showing up. So let me just check the onSelect for these guys. This button over here is the product, so it shows for both of them. It's good. Oh, that's the visible. Let me check the onSelect. OnSelect. select. So the employee gallery is true. We need to change that, make that as false. This will remain false. The product gallery will remain true because we're working with the product over here. Everything else should be okay. So let me just go and if I select, yep, so products have started showing up over here. And I think the data sheet is good as well. We'll just validate the data sheet's variables over there because that's the whole name of the game for this section, is working with the variables, the global variables using the set function. Let me just make sure this works. The list, it was true here. On the data sheet, on select, I need to change that because it's not on the employee. This needs to be for the products. Product gallery should be false. In this case, it will be the products data sheet variable. Should be good. Let me just take a look at the products gallery. That was good. I want to take a look at the data sheet one. The products form, it's visible with the products gallery variable. That's perfect. This guy over here should be visible with the data sheet. I think we're good. Let's do a test then. Okay, so it is the, let's just pretend that we were on the employee side. Now we're coming to the product side. On the product side, as you can see, since we overlapped it, you can't even tell that there are new buttons, but there actually are new buttons. And I do data sheet view, perfect. The lists formed all disappeared and everything disappeared, and this showed up over here. But if I click on, say, employees, it all goes back to the previous one over here. So it's great because when you select on each of these navigations, it shows up only the buttons for that navigation. That's how the variable works over here, which means I should not have any problems when I selected employees. And if I click on data sheet, I don't accidentally see a products data sheet. It shows me just the one for that employees one over here. So it works really well. And then in this example, what I did was I only picked up employees and products. Now you can go in and do the exact same for customers and orders, and you will get basically the exact same working copy as I just demoed, and we'll take a look at that again. Also in the article, I've already provided all the formula. So if you're working with the same naming convention as I am, then you can just go ahead and do a lot of copying and pasting. So the final demo over here basically was just showing you the screen that I already have a working copy of. So I can select on that screen, and as you can see, I've made it a little bit more cleaner. When I click on that, you can see that I have now for employees, you can see the list view, see the data sheet view. When I click on products, it takes me straight just to the products over here. The list view is the exact same. Data sheet view only shows me the products over there. Same thing for the customers, right? And also the this one works over here. The list, data sheet view, orders, all of these work. List and the data sheet view. So far what I've been able to do is I've been able to replicate getting the look and the feel almost the same. Importing the data was the first thing, and now we've got at least the views working, the list and the data sheet one. So when I go ahead and select any of them, the views all work over here. So in the next section, what we'll do is now we'll also work on adding and editing and then the deleting part as well, because that just takes a little extra step. And so that's what we'll work on the next blog. All right, so keep power apping.